call?
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
Cindy Butts,
Here.
Wendy Clark, Heidi DeWinger,
Here.
Kylie Goslin,
Here.
Stella Mascara Bruno,
Here.
Greg Ugalde.
Here.
Okay, so just Wendy, right?
Yes.
Okay. Give her a minute.
Would you like us to get started, or?
Sure. Okay, I guess we can go. So we have a couple items today. First one is an amended resolution for financing the Cherry Street lofts, which is phase 1. It's in Bridgeport. And Michelle, are you going to present?
Yes, I am.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. It's been about almost 1 year since this committee and the full board approved our recommendation for a 12-month extension to the terms of the Cherry Street Law financing. The main purpose of the extension was for the developers to get the new financing in place that would ultimately take out our CHFA debt. At that time, this committee did ask staff to come back in 6 months with an update. So we did that. Back in May, we talked about the status of the financing application that the developers were working on with Fannie Mae and Citibank. And we also talked about some open issues that the developer still needed to resolve with CHFA and the National Park Service to get their final sign-offs on the project. Back in May, I did mention that during their underwriting, Citi requested a modification of the FAF loan. The FAF loan is a $5 million loan with principal payments commencing in 2036. Now, that's the same year that this new Citi loan will become due. So specifically, Citi had asked CHFA agree to modify the FAF loan to eliminate the scheduled debt service payments. We didn't have enough information to determine the implications of the request and to make a recommendation at that juncture. So since then, we've had discussions with Citi and their counsel. And of course, wanted to make every effort to provide agreeable terms that will effectuate the payoff of our debt. So we've come to an agreement that we are recommending that you all approve. And that includes allowing the FAF loan to take a subordinate position to the Citi loan. We are asking that the annual fixed principal payments of approximately $170,000 be eliminated. In addition to the fixed payments, the FAF note also requires payments based on surplus cash. Those payments will increase from 50% to 75%. And those payments will now are estimated to be about $103,000 annually. And those payments will commence 12 months after the maturity of the Citi loan. The FAF loan will also take a subordinate position to a future refinance lender, provided, however, that the amount of the refinance does not exceed the amount that's owed to Citi at that time. So this provision will only apply to the first refinance and not any subsequent refinancing. So those are the recommendations that we're asking you to approve with regard to the FAF loan. We're also recommending that you grant the CEO the authority to extend the maturity dates on our debt to April 15th if needed. And that's because there's still a few significant items that have to fall in place before the Citi loan will close. The main one being the CHFA and Park Service sign-off. As I outlined a little bit more detail in the memo and as I touched base with you all in May, NPS did require the developers remove some acoustical ceiling tiles in the corridors at the Railroad Avenue building. And they asked that they be replaced with sheetrock, and they needed to install panels to access all the mechanicals. The good news is that work is done, and the developer's historic consultant was on site Tuesday. They took pictures, and that entire package will get submitted to SHPO before this week is out. The timing, though, of those historic approvals can take upwards of 60 days, and we just don't know how quickly they're going to come back, or if they'll come back with more questions. So that's one item that we think can delay things a bit. And another item that can push us past the maturity date are the cost certifications. So although we did receive them, and staff in-house is going through them, there are questions, questions that we've sent out to the developers and their accountants that we need to get answers to. So that process is going to take a little bit of time. So for those reasons, we're recommending that you give Nandini some latitude to extend the dates. We're hoping that certainly won't go out to April, but we're asking for that amount of time if needed. So in summary, we're asking you all to let us modify the FAF loan, and also give Nandini the ability to extend the terms of our financing if needed.
So this has been particularly painful. When I read it again,
I'm hoping this is the last time I'm asking you guys for anything.
Yeah, this is your legacy right here. Is Citibank just the 500-pound gorilla that they keep coming back and whittling away and chipping away? Because now payments are going to go down, really. Even though the amount goes up, the payments go down. Are we at the end where they can't take another swipe at this?
Yes, the subordination agreement has been drafted and pretty much in final form. So this is it.
Yeah. But are they
it.
looking to try to get out of it, or they're just trying to get as much as they can get and bang on their chest kind of thing?
I think they're, it's a 15-year loan. So
Right.
so they want out at year 15. And
Right.
there'll be about 11 million, close to 12 million due at that time.
They want to be in a reasonable position.
Exactly at that
Right.
point. At that point. So there was a lot of back and forth, and
Right.
we
Right.
finally agreed on these terms.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so Heidi, they also came for their third phase, and
They came for what?
Another phase.
for another phase.
Oh, is that right? And you said under no uncertainty would we deal with them again. Well, I mean, I guess they're lenders, but they're really, it's been painful, hasn't it?
Yeah. So the developer wants to develop the other phase, which
Right.
is okay, but not at this time because they need to finish this piece.
Exactly. We need to get this to the. I don't have any other questions.
I don't know if I wasn't clear. Fannie Mae is Citibank is the delegated underwriter for Fannie Mae. I don't know if I made that clear.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's a Fannie Mae loan.
Yeah. Either way, it's just, I know it just
Okay.
seems like they keep gnawing at this. Anybody else? Greg, any questions?
Just trying to do the quick balance. I guess to forego the 170 a year, now we've got it up to 75% of surplus cash. It was all negotiated, right? I mean, you did the best, and they were looking for certain things, and I think that you're all right. We have to try to ride this to get it completed the best for everybody, but
Right.
yeah, Fannie Mae's not always. In fact, my meeting right after CHFA today is with Fannie Mae on some things, and yeah, they can throw their weight around a little bit on something like this, and I guess
Right.
our best bet is to make it work for everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for understanding that.
Anybody else? All right. Do we have a motion to approve the modifications or amendments to this loan?
I'll make a motion that we approve it as explained and submitted.
Okay,
I'll
thank
second
you.
that.
Thanks, Kylie. Okay, Shelley, did you do a roll call?
Cindy Butts,
Yes.
Wendy Clark. Don't think she's joined.
Okay,
Heidi DeWingert,
aye.
Kylie Goslin.
Aye.
Salem Mascara Bruno,
Yes.
Greg Ugalde,
Yes.
unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Second motion or item is the resolution regarding the financing of the Edith Johnson Tower, which is in New Haven, and I believe to be presented by Maura.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Before you have a preservation transaction for Edith Johnson Tower. BCJ Edith Johnson LLC is requesting leasehold construction financing and 4% credits for the acquisition rehab of Edith Johnson Towers. The construction loan requested is up to $5.8 million, paying interest at a rate not to exceed 4.5% for 24 months. Edith Johnson is a 14-story elderly building in New Haven. It contains 95 units. They're all for residents below 50% AMI. 85 of those units are studios and 10 are one bedrooms. There is a water intrusion issue at the property, and this rehab involves a new waterproofing system being put on the facade of the building, new windows, and a new roof. They're also going to revitalize the common areas and add and revitalize life safety systems. They're adding energy saving measures for lighting and water and a new building circulation pump. The property has an existing HAP contract on all 95 units, and that is going to be assigned to the purchaser. Beacon Community Services LLC is the developer for the property, and a Beacon entity, BCJ Management LLP, is the property manager. Beacon is a team of experienced residential real estate professionals that develop, own, and manage over 19,000 units in 150 communities throughout New England, Mid-Atlantic, Florida, and California. Beacon has demonstrated capacity to undertake complex residential transactions, and Beacon has designed, permitted, and built developments. They also have experience in rehabilitation and adaptive reuse of historic buildings. Beacon has developed 2 9% transactions, those being Montgomery Mills and Monterey Place, and they received a 2021 award, 9% award for Parkside Village in Branford, which we're working on. Beacon has about $73 million in existing CHFA loans, the largest being on 9th Square, New Haven, which is in the process of converting of the construction loan to its permanent. Oh, geez, I lost you. Keith Construction of Canton, Mass. Is the general contractor for this project. Keith has extensive experience with the majority of Keith's projects falling inside 3 market segments: adaptive reuse, preservation, new development, and occupied renovations. Keith has experience working with CHFA on light tech rehabilitation projects, including Montgomery Mills, East Haven High, 9th Square, Schoolhouse Apartments, to name a few. Keith is familiar with CHFA policies and procedures, particularly as it relates to affirmative action reporting and requisition protocols. They're currently working on Enterprise Abbott in Waterbury, and that project is coming in on time and in budget. The project architect is the architectural team, or TAT. They are a Massachusetts-based architectural firm. At project initiation, Beacon considered other architectural firms for this project, but ultimately chose TAT given their experience with occupied renovations. TAT has over 40 years of experience and has been involved in several CHFA finance projects since 2011. And those are Schoolhouse Apartments, Frost Homestead, East Haven High, Watertown Crossing Village, Capitol Tower Apartments, and Billing Forge. As I said earlier, Edith Johnson is located in New Haven, which is the largest city in New Haven County and the 2nd largest city in Connecticut. It has approximately 32% of its housing designated as affordable. The development is centrally located in New Haven, giving the seniors in the building easy access to everyday amenities and services. It's located steps away from New Haven's historic downtown area and Yale, and the site is in walking distance of several grocery stores, drugstores, and Yale's New Haven Hospital. There are 2 major bus lines, which is more important, that are located within a 2-minute walk from the building and provide services to major employment centers, downtown area, as well as State Street Station. And it is a weekly service, and it even runs on the weekends. So there's full accessibility, bus accessibility. The development is a short walk away from the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail, allowing residents to enjoy miles of trails. The financial structure. The total development costs here are $12,766,051, and that represents a per unit cost of $134,379. The construction costs total $5,236,933. 85,000 of that is for FF&E, and that's approximately 55,126 per unit for the actual construction. For the financing structure, there is about $4.6 million in LIHTC equity. There's the $5.8 million in CHFA tax exempt bond financing that we're requesting. There's also a seller loan. It's a cash flow loan for $2.8 million. If there's not cash flow, it accrues, and it's for a term of 40 years. $4 million of DOH flex funds, $300,000 in property reserves, $128,000 in energy rebates. There's a deferred developer fee of approximately $661,000, and there's a small gap loan of $290,000 to Blue Hub. It's a 6-year fully amortizing loan, so it's really small, and the cash flow here falls off, and that's why they needed a shorter term. Edith Johnson's 95 units are currently covered by a HAP contract, which expires in December of 2036. The HAP contract, as I said, will be assigned to BCJ Edith Johnson LLC at initial closing, and Beacon has already submitted their application to HUD for the assignment. This is an in-place renovation, so the residents will not have to be relocated. They are going to set up an area in the community room, which is large. Plus, if the residents don't feel comfortable there, there'll be approximately 4 units available for them to sit in while work is being done in their space. Really, the only work that's being done inside their unit is the window replacement, and Beacon has assured us that they can do it in a day and that they won't be disturbed beyond that. The strengths of this are no existing residents will be permanently displaced. The HAP contract ensures that the residents will continue to pay 30% of their income toward rent, and no existing resident will get a rent increase. As I said before, the property serves low, very low, and low income residents. So this transaction will preserve this property for another 40 years. The property, because of its HAP, enjoys strong occupancy, and in fact, there's a wait list of almost a year's worth of residents. Plans and specs and a capital needs assessment have been reviewed and deemed acceptable by CHFA Technical Services. The environmental reports have also been reviewed by an outside LEP. All costs needed to remedy environmental issues are included in the budget, and DOH Technical Services has also reviewed these plans and specs, and all their comments have been addressed. As I said earlier, the applicant is an affiliate of Beacon Communities LLC. They're an experienced developer who's assembled a development team that has experience with CHFA transactions. Renovation of existing building poses the risk of unforeseen conditions. Although worksite closures due to COVID-19 are less prevalent, delays in material shipments and other supply chain issues may occur and could delay completion of the development and funding of CHFA loan. This challenge, the contractor has been able to mitigate this somewhat by solidifying some key contracts with roof, window, and the exterior facade subcontractor. And let's see. And so we're only the construction lender in this. So our payoff is dependent on LIHTC equity, to some extent DOH, and then the small gap loan from Blue Hub to retire the construction loan. The syndicator here is Massachusetts Housing Equity Fund, Inc., and they'll fund 10% of the capital contribution at initial closing, 20% when the project certifies 100% completion, and the remainder will come in when they convert the construction loan. The equity is dependent on 3 consecutive months of break-even operations, a cost certification, achievement of the 50% test, and draft 8609s being received. These conditions will be better defined in the partnership agreement, but are normal conditions, and we think in this case totally achievable by the applicant. The closing conditions, right at the moment, they'll be our standard closing conditions, plus we have not received yet the executed term sheet for DOH money, and also they are working with Beacon and Keith on the last, they're trying to get a waiver for procurement, and Beacon owes DOH some material. And that's it. Any questions?
You said that the cash flow drops off after year 6. I didn't understand that.
It does. it goes down over the 15 years, Heidi. I probably wasn't clear. So basically what's happening here is the expenses are a little bit on the high side. Personnel expenses, particularly being an elderly building and being a Section 8 building, it has more personnel. So what happens over time, because the income is only growing at 2 and the expenses are growing at 3 and the ratio is off, the cash flow drops. So it could not support a 15-year loan. I guess I misspoke in terms, it doesn't drop like 6 years and then boom, it drops over time.
Got it. Okay. What are you worried about in this?
I actually think it's pretty, because of the fact that HUD is involved and we have the vouchers and a great occupancy, I'm not too worried that this will convert on time because they should be able to easily meet the conditions of the LIHTC, which is where it's LIHTC and DOH where we're getting the majority of the money from. And the coverage is sufficient in the first 6 years for the 290,000. So I don't think it'll be an issue.
This is Kylie. A couple of points and then one question. Obviously the preservation of low-income units, but particularly ELI units and HAP units that flex with folks' income is really important. We need more units that target that below 25% and, flex with that 30%. They're just critical. So glad to see that we're focusing on preserving those units. And although this looks like a pretty, in-depth project from multiple angles, Beacon's a good group and have confidence in them to manage this. The question I had, and you may have covered this, I was looking up higher. You said there's some longer term capital needs issues, mechanicals, and sort of bigger things. Are those all factored in? And we've got a 40-year outlook for this, so obviously we're going to have additional rehabs and mechanical replacements down the line. Just wondering sort of what precautions or sort of reserves are we looking at in order to make sure that stuff is managed to keep this in place?
So they're starting out with $300,000 in the reserve to start with. Plus they're putting in $600 per unit per year. And that's based on HUD's requirement, actually, because ours is less. So there's more going in. There is not a real issue with the mechanicals. They're actually fixing the elevator right now out of cash flow, out of existing reserves. And this is mainly to stop the water intrusion. So it should be good, but we have not seen any great issues in any other mechanicals, but with the additional reserves, it was based on I believe it was based on a HUD CNA, so it should be okay.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful.
Okay, anybody else, any other questions? Yeah, I mean, happy to see that a serious problem looks like it's going to be addressed with competent people. Greg, anything?
No, it looks like they have it under control. We always get concerned about what's going to happen with the people living there. They've got that under control with the rooms, and they can address it if there's any problems. I guess the deferred development fees, that I guess are going to make up. They put it together the best they can, I think, to make the cash flow and everything else work.
Yeah, the closing is going to have to have 2 rooms because there's so many different documents for all those loans. Sayla, is there anything that's DOH suspects is holding up the acceptance of the letters from the financing from DOH?
I don't think so. They were working through their due diligence and whatever because they're getting a financing from CHFA. They're working together, they're both staff. So we want to make sure that this proceeds as quick as possible. The staff is, both of them are working together.
We are. Okay. And I do believe that the term sheet is actually with Miguel. I think Lily has drafted it and it's with Miguel. So you should be seeing it for signature really soon.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions, comments? Okay, is there a motion? Ooh.
I can make the motion that we approve this as submitted.
Okay. Great. I'll second it. Shelley?
Cindy Butts,
Yes.
Heidi DeWinger,
Aye.
Kylie Goslin,
Aye.
Salem Mascara Bruno,
Yes.
and Greg Ugaldi.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. We have the minutes from the September 30th meeting. Anybody have any questions or comments or changes? It looked okay to me. I'll move them unless there's any other comments. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Shelley?
Sure. Cindy Butts,
Yes.
Heidi DeWinger,
Aye.
Kylie Goslin,
Aye.
Salem Mascara Bruno,
Yes.
Greg Ugaldi.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay. And the last thing on my agenda, I think, is the multifamily activities that Wendy presents.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So as a little update on multifamily, we had the 9% tax credit overview session in mid-October to kick off the 2022 LIHTC funding round. There were over 70 people in attendance, and it was recorded and it's available on our website for those that weren't able to attend. And the next step is preliminary applications and pre-application meetings that will be held in the near future. And then applications are due January 12th. As for closings last month, Village at Park River final closed, and we also had an SSHP critical needs project that final closed. Last week, Karen Futoma, who is CHFA's resident services liaison, presented an emergency preparedness training session at the Connecticut Association of Resident Service Coordinators in Housing event. It's otherwise known as CARSH. And then today, Karen and I are both presenters at NEMA's annual conference that's being held virtually. Karen is co-presenting a session on creating a successful tenancy with persons that are new to housing. And I'm representing CHFA on a panel of representatives from the other New England HFAs, as well as HUD and Navigate Housing, just for an update of what's going on at our respective agencies. Not in the report, but just to note, multifamily staff is working on collecting the annual tenant profile and waiting list information from all of our properties in the portfolio. This information is required by the 837BB reporting, which is required by state statute. The HACCP program still has about $16,000 available. I've mentioned that several months. I think the balance has been the same, but it is still available. And then we also included the chart again that highlights some of the upcoming projects that will be presented in the next several months. So are there any questions?
This is Kylie. I have a question about the NEMA presentation that I think you said Karen was doing. If that's recorded and you're able to send it along to us, I know we have a lot of folks on our Reaching Home side and that sort of thing that are interested in that, and our upcoming conferences in a couple of weeks. And I know there's been interest in, if not covering it then that topic then later. So I think there might be some interest from folks if you're willing to pass along the recording.
Absolutely. I believe it's being recorded, and I'll make sure we get it to you.
Thanks so much, Wendy.
You're welcome.
One thing I wanted to mention to just regarding the upcoming 9% round, so the preliminary application that Wendy talked about, this is a new change that we made, and this was specifically response to the development community to have an opportunity to meet with CHFA and DOH, describe their project and what they're thinking before they go out and invest, a ton of money in pre-development costs. So we're excited to make this change happen, but that was just the additional comments that I wanted to make to that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions, comments? Okay, I guess we can move to adjourn the meeting and come back at 10 o'clock, unless there's anybody has anything else. Nandini, anything?
quiet today.
Yeah, very. All right,
I'll
good job.
Talk at the board meeting. How's that?
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right, all in favor of adjoining, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, see you in a bit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, bye.
Bye.